Hi everyone, I'm Sujani, faculty in physics at Institute of Aeronautical Engineering. Today we are going to see the demonstration of Hall effect experiment. As we have discussed earlier, whenever we do an experiment, we will have to follow certain steps, and let us see the brief outline of how we are going to go about the experiment. First is the aim of the experiment. Then we need to know about the apparatus that is required, theory or the principle or the formula, circuit diagram, the procedure to do the experiment, and a table to tabulate the readings, and calculations, how we calculate, the model graph, the result, and also some questions you need to answer regarding the experiments as viva voce. So what is the aim of this experiment? The aim is to determine the charge carrier density in a given semiconductor material. If you are given a semiconductor material, you need to find out the charge carrier density in that particular semiconductor material using Hall apparatus. So what is the apparatus that is required? We need a Hall effect panel. This consists of, you can see here this Hall effect panel which is kept in between the two magnets here. This is the Hall effect panel. This is the Hall probe. And these two are the electromagnets. You can see these two magnets here. They are the electromagnets, and a constant power supply. This is the constant power supply you can see, which we give to the electromagnets, and a digital Gauss meter. This is the digital Gauss meter, which is used to measure the magnetic field. The Gauss meter we are using to measure the magnetic field, and a Hall probe stand to hold the specimen or the Hall effect panel. Now, what is the theory? Hall effect board consists of a thin piece of rectangular p-type semiconductor material. Here we are considering a p-type semiconductor material. For example, gallium arsenide or indium arsenide. This is what we are taking as the specimen. Means the semiconductor in which we have to calculate the charge carrier density is fixed on the Hall effect board. Okay, and that we are calling it as the specimen. Now the electromagnet. What we have in an electromagnet? We have two insulated copper wires wound on soft iron bars. As I have shown you in the figure, we have two soft iron bars on which we have two copper wires which are wound, and these two bars are facing each other. We have the two soft iron bars which are facing each other. We can see it again. So this is one iron bar and this is other iron bar. This is facing the other here. Now, when a DC current from a constant power supply is sent through the coils, the faces of the iron bars act as two poles. Here we are going to see the magnetic effects of electric current. When current flows through the coil, magnetism is produced. And these two iron bars will now act as magnet, and they are two poles of the magnet. So, creating a magnetic field in between. So, if this is one end and this is the other end of the magnet, these will form two different poles. One pole, they are situated in such a way, we are winding the coils in such a way, such that when current flows through the coil, one pole is here and the other pole, opposite pole is created here. So that in between the two poles, these are the two bars, and in between the two poles, you will have a constant magnetic field that is produced. So we are creating a magnetic field in between the two bars. Now the gap between the poles can be varied. So we have knobs to vary the distance between we can use these knobs to adjust the distance. This is the distance between the two knobs. We can adjust the distance using the two knobs. Generally, we keep a distance of say 1 to 1.5 centimeters between the two electromagnets. Now, the specimen means the semiconductor material in which we have to find the charge carrier density, is fixed on the printed circuit board, which consists of 4 supporting terminals. Suppose you imagine this is the specimen, this rectangular chip, you can see this is the specimen. It will consist of 4 terminals, 1, 2, 3 and 4. These are the 4 terminals we are connecting to this Hall effect board. Now, 2 terminals are along the lengthwise. So, if you see here, this terminal 1 and terminal 2 we are connecting along the lengthwise and connected to a supply. These 2 terminals here, if you see in the experiment, you will see them as red and black wires. So, we are connecting these 2 wires to the current source. So, when you switch on, so the current will flow in this direction. That is how we are connecting these 2 probes. Now, the other 2 terminals along the width. So, what are the other 2 terminals? Terminal 3 and terminal 4. They are connected to the voltmeter. So, we are connecting a voltmeter to the other 2 terminals. So, this is a specimen in which we have to calculate the charge carrier density. We are connecting 4 terminals. 2 terminals lengthwise we have connected to the current supply, and 2 terminals along the width we are connecting it to the voltmeter to measure the voltage. Now, when this device is placed in between the magnetic field, so using these 2 magnets, we are having the 2 magnets here. So, because of the opposite poles that are created, you have a magnetic field that is produced in between the 2. Now, we are going to keep this specimen here in between the 2 magnets. So, what happens now when the device is placed in the magnetic field? You imagine. So, this is a specimen we were talking about from the Hall effect panel. We are bringing this and keeping it with the help of a stand. We are keeping it in between the 2 poles. Means we are inserting it in the magnetic field. Now, the flux lines will exert a force on the semiconductor material. Then, what happens? There will be the deflection of the charge carriers, that is electrons and holes, to either side of the slab. Now, when you have a current flowing through this in this direction, the current is flowing because we have connected the lengthwise terminals to the power supply, we have connected them. So, the current is flowing through this, and then you have the magnetic field perpendicular to it. Then because of these 2 fields, the charge carriers will get deflected. They will get deflected to either side of the slab. And this movement of charge carriers is a result of the magnetic force they experience due to the current and also due to the magnetic field. These 2 are acting perpendicular to each other. So, because of the current and the magnetic field, what is happening? There is a movement in the charge carriers. They are getting deflected because of the force they experience. Now, let us see what is Hall effect. Before you do the experiment, you should clearly understand what Hall effect is. Hall effect says that when a current carrying semiconductor is placed perpendicular to the magnetic field, that is what we have shown. So, suppose this is the specimen we have. You are allowing the current to flow through it like this, and we are applying the magnetic field perpendicular to the flow of current. So, this is how the magnetic field is. So, the current carrying conductor is introduced perpendicular to the magnetic field. Then the charge carriers will experience a force in transverse direction to the applied magnetic field and the charge carrier flow. So, now how these charge carriers are experiencing force in a perpendicular direction to the magnetic field and the electric field. Suppose we have the current flowing along the x direction and the magnetic field along the z direction. So, they experience a force along the y direction, and this effect we are calling as Hall effect. So, when a current carrying semiconductor is introduced in a perpendicular magnetic field, the charge carriers experience a force transverse to the direction of the applied field and the current flow. Means all the 3 are mutually perpendicular to each other. This effect is known as Hall effect. Now, how do we understand this? We understand it with the help of Fleming's left hand rule. We apply the Fleming's left hand rule What does the Fleming left hand rule say? If you keep all the three fingers mutually perpendicular to each other, if the forefinger denotes the magnetic field and the current denotes, the middle finger denotes the current, then the thumb represents the force. So now we have a magnetic field which is between the two magnets. We have kept this specimen in which the current is flowing in this direction. So the charges will experience a force in this direction. So the charges will get separated along the width. So due to this force, what is happening? The electrons and the holes move sidewards. When they move sidewards, what happens? A potential difference is produced. Because of the separation of these charges, the potential difference is created between the two sides of the semiconductor. And because of the buildup of these charges, there is a difference in potential which we can measure, and we call it as the Hall voltage. The voltage that is developed, we are calling it as Hall voltage because named after the scientist Hall effect, we are calling it as Hall voltage. Let us now see the demo of Hall experiment. So this experiment is based on Hall effect. As we have discussed in the theory, we have a current carrying semiconductor. Whenever it is placed in a magnetic field, there will be a deflection. There will be a force acting on the charge carriers, and the charge carriers get deflected. Because of that, there is a voltage that is developed. By measuring the voltage, we measure the charge carriers. So the main aim of this experiment is to determine the charge carrier concentration in a given semiconducting material. So let us see the apparatus that is required. We have an electromagnet which is used to create a magnetic field. There are two soft iron cores on which a copper wire is wound, and this is connected to a power supply. When we vary the current, the magnetic field that is developed will vary. We can measure it with the help of this Gauss meter. Gauss meter is a meter which is used to measure the magnetic field. Then we have a constant power supply to allow the current to flow through the semiconductor, and this is the Hall probe. In this, we have a small semiconductor material which is chipped onto a device whose dimensions are known. When we allow the current to pass along the semiconductor and we place it in between the magnetic field, then we will be able to see the Hall effect. Now, to start the experiment, first we need to set up the magnetic field, switch on the power supply and adjust the distance between the two magnets, two soft iron cores, using the knobs. These knobs can be rotated in opposite direction. This is a sensor which is used to measure the magnetic field. Without touching the two cores, place the sensor in between the two iron cores and adjust the current such that we get a constant magnetic field, say 2 Tesla. So this is roughly 1 into 20K. So 2 into 10 power 4 Gauss, that gives us 2 Tesla. So once this is set, we can switch off the Gauss meter. This is only used to measure the magnetic field. Now there is a constant magnetic field between the two poles of the magnet. And these two are arranged in such a way that the opposite poles face each other. Now we place the Hall probe in between the magnetic field such that the current flowing through the semiconductor and the magnetic field are perpendicular to each other. Now, if you see, if this is a semiconductor, if you have the magnetic field that is flowing along the length and we have a current along this direction which are mutually perpendicular to each other, the charges now will be deflected perpendicular to the two in the opposite direction. Means if you have, we apply the Fleming's left hand rule where a forefinger always denotes the magnetic field, the middle finger denotes the current and the thumb represents the force acting on the charge carriers. Now, if you have the magnetic field flowing along this direction and the current flowing along this direction, the charges will be deflected upwards. Because of this, there will be a voltage that is developed along these two ends. Along the thickness, you will have a voltage that is developed, which we call it as the Hall voltage. Now, the two wires along which the current has to flow, we connect it from the power supply input. These two wires, black and red, are connected across this length so that the current will flow through it. These are the two wires which help to send the current through the semiconductor, and this yellow wire and the green wire are connected along the thickness so that whatever voltage that is developed across the semiconductor can be read using this milliammeter and millivoltmeter. Now, once we set it in between, the magnetic field B is fixed, constant magnetic field, and the thickness of the semiconductor is also fixed. We take a semiconductor material of say 4 millimeter thickness or 0.4 mm. Now, you keep on varying the current and note down the voltage. Vary it in steps of 0.3, note down the voltage, 0.1, 0.6, 0.14 and keep on increasing it in steps of 0.3 milliammeter and note down the current. Tabulate the readings as given in the tabular column and calculate the value of RH. Once you get the RH, you can easily calculate the charge carrier density using the formula N is equal to 1 upon ERH, where E is the charge of the electron. Yes, let us quickly see the procedure again. Before you start the experiment, we will have to demagnetize the coils, because if there is any magnetism that is left before starting the experiment, you may have to demagnetize it by using the sensor at the center of the core. You will place the sensor at the center of the core as seen in the demo and apply reverse current and see that the Gauss meter reads 0. Means there is no magnetism inside. Now, you will adjust the gap between the magnetic cores. Both the magnetic soft iron cores, we are adjusting such that by rotating the knobs such that the distance is 1 centimeter. Now, we will allow the current to pass through the electromagnet. No, we will switch on the power supply so that current will pass through the copper wire which is wound on the soft iron core, and then these soft iron cores will now become electromagnets. As I told you, it is the magnetic effects of electric current. So they are now acting like electromagnets because of the current flowing from the constant source. Now, you will try to adjust the current in such a way that the magnetic field is 2 Tesla. We will fix the magnetic field between the two cores constant. The magnetic field is kept constant, say around 2 Tesla. This is the magnetic field that is created between the poles of the electromagnet. By adjusting the current, if the current varies, the magnetic field varies. So we try to adjust the current in such a way that the magnetic field is 2. So how do we read this 2 Tesla? Using a Gauss meter. So this magnetic field or the magnetic induction, you can measure it using a Gauss meter. You have the sensor which is connected to the Gauss meter. Keep the sensor in between the two poles, and while you adjust the current, you see that the Gauss meter reads 2 Tesla. Here we keep it as 20K. We have a knob where it shows as 20K. So this is in Gauss, and we are doing the experiment in MK system or the SI system. So 20K here denotes 20 into 10 power 3 or 2 into 10 power 4 Gauss. So 10 power 4 Gauss is 1 Tesla. So we say this is 2 Tesla. So keep the knob at 20K and adjust the current to 1 ampere say. So 20K into 1 you get 20 into 10 power 3 because it is K. So this is 2 into 10 power 4 Gauss, which is 2 Tesla. So we have adjusted the magnetic field to be constant. Now place the specimen which is mounted on the PCB in the magnetic field. This magnetic field which is produced, we now keep the specimen such that the faces of the specimen are perfectly vertical. You cannot keep it slant. It has to be perfectly vertical and perpendicular to the field. Now vary the Hall current. We have connected the two terminals lengthwise to the current meter, to the current source. So we will vary the current in steps of say 0.3 milliampere. And as the current varies, the voltage varies, because as the current varies, the charges get deflected sideways, and because of the deflection we are getting the voltage, and we measure the voltage which we call as Hall voltage. So the corresponding for this current, note down the Hall voltage. Now what are the observations to be noted before doing the experiment? Magnetic field 2 Tesla, and the thickness of the specimen which will be given by the manufacturer. Whatever semiconductor material we are taking, we need to note down its thickness. It is 0.5 millimeter. We will convert it into meter because SI system we are following, and the Hall coefficient is given by RH is equal to VH into T upon I into B, because we need to calculate the charge carrier density, and the formula for the charge carrier density N is 1 upon E into RH, where E here is the charge of the electron. E is charge of electron, which is 1.6 into 10 power minus 19 coulombs. This is fixed. Now, if you know RH, you can easily calculate the value of N. So how to get the Hall coefficient RH? VH into T by I into B. VH here stands for the Hall voltage. T is the thickness which is constant. We have put T is the thickness. I is the current which we are varying. So as I varies, V varies. The magnetic field B is also constant, 2 Tesla. So B is constant, T is constant. As we vary I, the value of the voltage varies. So we are going to note down these values, calculate RH, substitute here and find the value of N, which gives us the charge carrier density. So let us see the tabular column. The first trial, we have put a constant magnetic field as 2 Tesla. The thickness is also constant, 5 into 10 power minus 4. We are writing in meters. The current is, as you adjust the knob in the current source, you will note down the value of the current from there. It is in milliampere. So 0.33 milliampere. Note down the corresponding voltage, and the voltage is in millivolts. So for a current of 0.33 milliampere, you will get a voltage of say 10.7. These values may not be fixed, but I am just giving you an idea, rough idea of how the calculations or the observations are going to be. So this is the voltage for this current. So note the value of RH. We will see the calculation RH. Once you get RH, you can calculate the value of N. Repeat the experiment for different currents. You keep on varying. You will take say up to 10 readings. At least 10 readings you can take. So I have shown you some readings, 4 sample readings. So but you can continue taking the readings by varying the current in steps of say around 0.3 ampere we are varying around. So we keep on varying the current and note down the voltage. All these two, this magnetic field and the thickness are constant. So you will keep on varying the current, note down the voltage, calculate the Hall coefficient and find the charge carrier density. So the sample calculation we are going to see. One calculation. So the formula here is RH is equal to VH into T by I upon B. So for the first reading, what we have, B is equal to 2 Tesla and the thickness is 5 into 10 power minus 4. Current is 0.33 and the corresponding voltage is 10.7. So how do we get RH? So just to substitute the values of VH, 10.7, it is in millivolts. So I'll have to write it in volts, 10 power minus 3 into T, the thickness. So what is the thickness? 5 into 10 power minus 4 upon I. The current here is 0.33 milliampere. We'll convert it into ampere, 10 power minus 3 ampere into B, 2 Tesla. So this is in SI unit. So you just substitute the values. V, converting it into amperes, thickness in meters, then current in ampere, and this is the magnetic field, B, 2 Tesla. So if you simplify all this, you will get the value of RH as 8.1 into 10 power minus 3. So once you get the value of RH, you can find N using 1 upon E. The value of E, the charge of the electron, is 1.6 into 10 power minus 19 into RH. What we got here is 8.1 into 10 power minus 3. So you will get it around 7.7 into 10 power 20 per meter cube. Unit volume we talk about. So it is per meter cube. So you also have to remember, whatever you are doing, this conversion of units is important. You will have to do everything in the SI system here. So the charge carriers are, the charge carrier density is 7.7 into 10 power 20 per meter cube. And as you repeat the experiment, if you see here, you are going to repeat for different currents. So the value of RH you are getting and the value of N, if you see, they are approximately the same because the sample is the same. Only thing is you are varying the current and noting down the voltage. So they are approximately, maybe a slight difference is acceptable. We call it as experimental error or random error, but we get the values. And finally, how do you get the result when you are repeating the experiment, say for 10 readings? Sum of all the readings divided by 10 will give you the average value of N. So that the error can be minimized. Why we take the average of readings is, so even if in 1 or 2 cases there is some error, when you take a number of readings and take the average, the error can be minimized to a greater extent. That is why we take a number of readings and take the average and project it as a result. So now the result is the average given by N is equal to 7.75 into 10 power 20 per meter cube.
Like, share and subscribe. Hit the bell icon for more updates.